Some of the most legendary figures in the world left behind final moments that speak louder than anything they ever achieved. Today, we're looking at the last known photos of icons the world thought would last forever. Each image captures a moment just days, weeks, or even hours before everything changed. Jean Harlow, the platinum blonde bombshell, captured on the set of Saratoga leaning against Clark Gable, her skin unusually pale, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. In May 1937, weeks later, she passed away from kidney failure at only 26. Carole Lombard, the queen of screwball comedy, photographed holding roses at the Columbia Club in Indianapolis, standing beside her mother, and MGM press agent, exhaustion visible in her eyes despite the smile. In January 1942, the following morning, she died in a plane crash. TWA Flight 3 slammed into Double Up Peak in Nevada, killing everyone on board at only 33. Thelma Todd, the ice cream blonde, captured at a party at the Caf Trocadero wearing her evening gown and jewels, laughing with friends, guest of honor for the night, on December 14, 1935. Just days later, she was found dead, slumped over the steering wheel of her Lincoln convertible, in a closed garage. Carbon monoxide poisoning. But the broken nose, bruised throat, and cracked ribs told a different story at only 29. Olive Thomas, the silent film starlet, photographed at a Paris nightclub dancing and drinking until dawn, trying to save her failing marriage. On September 5, 1920, hours later, she accidentally drank mercury bichloride, mistaking the poison for sleeping medicine in her hotel room. She lingered for 5 agonizing days. Her last words, "Pretty weak, but I'll be all right in a little while." "Don't worry, darling." At only 25, James Dean, the rebel, captured at a gas station in Sherman Oaks, standing next to his silver Porsche 550 Spider, the one he nicknamed Little Bastard, wearing his signature glasses and windbreaker. On September 30, 1955, just hours later, he crashed on Highway 46 near Cholame. A Ford Tudor pulled out in front of him. Dean died almost instantly, broken neck, at only 24. Grace Kelly, Hollywood royalty turned actual royalty, photographed entering her Rover 3500 wearing large sunglasses, her daughter Princess Stie Faney beside her, preparing to drive from their country home. In September 1982, that same day, she suffered a stroke behind the wheel. The car plunged off a 100-foot cliff on the same stretch of road from her film To Catch a Thief at 52. Marilyn Monroe, the icon, photographed at the Cal Naval Lodge in Lake Tahoe, wrapped in a heavy green coat, hair disheveled, exhaustion etched into every feature, sitting with Frank Sinatra and friends. In July 1962, 1 week later, she was found dead in her bedroom. Barbiturate. Sharon Tate, the rising star, captured in her backyard at 150 Cielo Drive, 5 months pregnant, wearing a yellow floral dress, posing in the garden. On August 8, 1969, that night, members of the Manson family entered her home. She was murdered shortly after midnight at only 26. Natalie Wood, the former child star, photographed on the deck of her yacht Splendor wearing a red jacket, smiling alongside her husband Robert Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken off the coast of Catalina Island. On November 28, 1981, hours later, she disappeared from the boat. Her body found the next morning, still wearing the red jacket and nightgown, drowning in other undetermined factors at 43. Judy Garland, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, photographed backstage at Talk of the Town in London, frail and thin, yet dressed in a sparkling sequin jumpsuit, preparing for her residency. In March 1969, 3 months later, she was found dead in her London rental home, accidental barbiturate overdose at 47. Montgomery Clift, the beautiful method actor, photographed on the set of The Defector in West Germany, appearing significantly older than his years, features rug gaze distant. In July 1966, shortly after, he returned to his New York brownstone. His final recorded words when asked if he wanted to watch one of his old films: "Absolutely not." Found dead the next morning, heart attack at only 45. To Humphrey Bogart, the tough guy, photographed sitting in a chair at his home, painfully thin, still holding a cigarette, his wife Lauren Bacall leaning over his shoulder. In late 1956, weeks later, he passed away. Esophageal cancer had ravaged his body. His final words to Bacall: "Goodbye, kid. Hurry back." At 57, Rudolph Valentino, the Latin lover, photographed at the premiere of Son of the Sheikh at the $1 Million Theater in Los Angeles, surrounded by 40 famous friends, the crowd snarling traffic on Broadway. In July 1926, 1 month later, he collapsed at the Hotel Ambassador in New York. Perforated ulcer peritonitis set in after emergency surgery. Thousands of fans mobbed the hospital. He died on August 23 at only 31. Barbara Lamar, the girl who was too beautiful, photographed on the set of The Girl from Montmartre, her final film, struggling through each scene, considerably frail, often crippled by pain. In October 1925, 3 months later, she collapsed into a coma, weighing less than 80 pounds. Tuberculosis and nephritis shut down her body at only 29. Bela Lugosi, the man who became Dracula, photographed on the set of The Black Sleep, playing a mute butler with no dialogue, his final role visibly ill. In late 1955, months later, he was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment, a script in his hands. Heart attack. He was buried in his full Dracula costume, cape and all, at 73. Vivian Leigh, Scarlett O'Hara herself, photographed by Angus McBean, appearing ethereal and remarkably beautiful despite her illness. Portraits intended to promote her upcoming stage work. In May 1967, 2 months later, she was found dead in her London apartment. Her lungs filled with liquid. Tuberculosis had returned. The lights of every theater in central London extinguished for 1 hour in her honor at 53. Isadora Duncan, the celebrated dancer, photographed in nice, wearing a hand-painted silk scarf, a gift from Mary Desty, preparing for a drive in her open car. In September 1927, moments later, the long scarf became tangled in the car's rear wheel. She was yanked from her seat, strangled instantly at 50. Jane Mansfield, the blonde bombshell, photographed at dinner in Biloxi, Mississippi, sitting at the Gus Stevens Supper Club with her lawyer boyfriend Sam Brody, calm and focused after her cabaret performance. On June 29, 1967, hours later, their Bic Electra crashed into a tractor-trailer obscured by insecticide fog. The top of the car sheared off. Mansfield, Brody, and their driver killed on impact. Her 3 children in the back seat survived, including young Mariska Hargitay at 34. Bruce Lee, the martial arts icon, photographed at a production meeting in Hong Kong for Enter the Dragon and Game of Death, standing with producer Raymond Chow, lean and remarkably fit. Around July 10, 1973, 10 days later, he complained of a headache at actress Betty Ting Pai's home, took a painkiller, lay down for a nap. He never woke up. Cerebral edema at only 32. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, photographed behind the wheel of his Silver Stutz Black Hawk Athuri, pulling through the gates of Graceland, wearing large sunglasses, waving to fans who waited outside. At 28 a.m. on August 16, 1977, returning from his dentist, that afternoon he was found unresponsive in his bathroom, cardiac arrest, at only 42. Lupe Vallés, the Mexican Spitfire, photographed at her home in Beverly Hills, radiant and smiling, preparing for what she thought would be her future. In December 1944, days later, she was found dead in her bed, surrounded by flowers and candles, at only 36. George Reeves, Superman himself, photographed in costume on the set, cape flowing, embodying the Man of Steel, frustrated by typecasting. Raymond Novarro, the silent screen heartthrob, photographed at his Laurel Canyon home, the aging Latin lover still maintaining his dignified presence. In October 1968, that same night, 2 young hustlers entered his home. He was beaten to death, a crime of shocking brutality, at 69. William Holden, the golden boy of Hollywood, photographed at dinner with Glenn Ford and his wife, sitting at their home in good spirits, talking about writing a book, reminiscing about the good and sad times. 2 weeks before his death, in late October 1981, days later, alone in his Santa Monica apartment, he consumed 8 to 10 drinks, tripped over a throw rug, slammed his head into a teak nightstand. The furniture flew into the wall. He tried to stop the bleeding with tissues, never called for help, and bled to death. His body found 4 days later at 63. Paul Byrne, the MGM executive June Harlow's husband, photographed at work, mild-mannered and unassuming, the father confessor of the studio, helping to guide his young wife's career. In summer 1932, 2 months after their wedding, he was found dead. Gig Young, the Oscar-winning actor, photographed during his final days, appearing distressed, struggling with depression. In October 1978, weeks after marrying his fifth wife, he was found dead in their Manhattan apartment alongside his 31-year-old bride Kim Schmidt. Susan Peters, the rising star, photographed in her wheelchair, determined to continue acting after a hunting accident left her paralyzed. In 1952, months later, depression consumed her. She stopped eating, died from malnutrition and starvation. Her husband had left her. She was given no more roles at only 31. Inger Stevens, the beautiful actress, photographed on set appearing vibrant and successful, her struggles hidden behind a smile. In early 1970, weeks later, she was found unconscious in her kitchen. Freddie Prinze, the young comedian, photographed backstage at a show, the star of Chico and the Man. Bright future ahead. Albert Decker, the character actor, photographed at a social event, distinguished and professional. In May 1968, days later, his fiancée found him in the bathtub of his Hollywood apartment, naked, strangled by a noose. Bizarre circumstances suggesting autoerotic asphyxiation, ruled accidental at 62. Ron Lingyu, the silent film goddess of China, photographed at the premiere of her final film, New Women, radiant despite the scandals surrounding her. Gig Young and Kim Schmidt, the newlyweds, photographed at their wedding, appearing happy, celebrating their October marriage. 3 weeks later, they were found dead in their Manhattan apartment. Per Angeli, the Italian beauty, photographed at a Hollywood event, her marriage to Victimone ending, struggling with depression and addiction. In September 1971, hours later, she was found dead. Gia Scala, the British-American actress, photographed during her final film, appearing fragile, battling alcoholism. In 1972, weeks later, she was found dead in her Hollywood Hills home. Alcohol and drug overdose, alone, at only 38. Robert Walker, the talented leading man, photographed on set, appearing troubled, struggling with alcohol and emotional instability. In August 1951, that same day, his doctor administered a sedative to calm him during a breakdown, allergic reaction, cardiac arrest at only 32.